Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi, Avodah Zarah, Daf 11. We just spoke about Kitia Bar Shalom. The Gemara relates Antoninus would attend to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and similarly the Persian king Adrakan would attend to Rav. When Antoninus died, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said the bundle was separated. When Adrakan died, Rav likewise said the bundle is separated. We're in Daf 11 now. The bundle is separated. The Gemara mentions other Romans who converted to Judaism. It relates Onkelos bar Kolonimos converted to Judaism. The Roman emperor sent a troop or gunda of Roman soldiers after him to seize Onkelos and bring him to the emperor. Onkelos drew them toward him with verses that he cited and learned with them, and they converted. The emperor then sent another troop of Roman soldiers after him and said to them, "Do not say anything to him, so that he cannot convince you with his arguments." The troops followed his instruction and took Onkelos with them. When they were walking, Onkelos said to the troop of soldiers, I will say a mere statement to you. A minor official holds a torch before a high official. The high official holds a torch for a duke for the governor, and the governor for the ruler. Does the ruler hold a torch before the common people? The soldiers said to Onkelos, "No." Onkelos said to them, "Yet the Holy One, blessed be He, holds a torch before the Jewish people, as it is written, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, by night in a pillar of fire to give them light." Exodus 13:21. They all converted. The emperor, and I want to point out that this tragedy that we have today about converts taking like 15, 18 years, 5 years, we're reading stories where this stuff was immediate, just like in the days of Hillel. He converted the man on one foot. Anyway, they all converted. The emperor then sent another troop of soldiers after him to bring Onkelos, and they said to him, "Do not converse with him at all." The troops followed his instruction and took Onkelos with them. While they grabbed him and were walking, Onkelos saw a mezuzah that was placed on the doorway. He placed his hand upon it and said to the soldiers, "What is this?" They said to him, "You tell us." Onkelos said to them, "The standard practice throughout the world is that a king of flesh and blood sits inside his palace, and his servants stand guard protecting him outside. But with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, his servants, the Jewish people, sit inside their homes, and he guards over them outside. As it is stated, the Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from now and forever." Psalms 121, verse 8. Upon hearing this, those soldiers also converted to Judaism. After that, the emperor sent no more soldiers after him. And I want to point out, we have the name of God, Shin Dalet Yod, on the mezuzah. Okay? And it's interesting because that has a gematria of 314, so 314. 314 is pi. It's the ratio that we associate with the diameter and circumference of a circle. And it's also interesting because if you take the letter Shin, the first letter in Shaddai, and you spell it out, like Shin is spelled Shin, Yod, Nun. It has a gematria of 360, which is a circle, which is like surrounding in all directions. That is the name where Hashem is all-encompassing, okay? Just to point that out. Little gematria, little remez. Okay, where were we? Okay, the Gemara returns to its discussion on Antoninus. When the matriarch Rebekah was pregnant with Jacob and Esau, the Lord said to her, two nations, two goyim are in your womb. Two goyim are in your womb. So there's people that say whenever we say goyim, it's like a derogatory term for other nations. But it's not true. It's a name for just a nation of people. The same term is used for the nation of Israel, the Jewish nation. It's not just for... So as we see here, it says, two goyim are in your womb. Genesis 25:23. Rav Yehuda says, Rav says, do not read it as goyim, meaning nations, rather read it as geim, meaning proud ones. This verse was fulfilled in two prominent individuals who descended from Rebekah, Antoninus and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, whose tables, due to their wealth, never lacked for lettuce, nor cucumbers, nor radish, neither in the summer nor in the rainy season, despite the fact that these foods do not grow year-round. The reason they ensured that these items were always present at their tables is that the master said, "A radish breaks up food, lettuce stirs up food, cucumbers expand the intestines." The Gemara asked, but isn't it taught in the school of Rabbi Yishmael? Why are they called cucumbers or kishuin? Hold on a second, I want to get the right word. Yes, kishuin. It is because they are as harmful or kashim to a person's body as swords. The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. This statement that they are harmful to the body is referring to large cucumbers, whereas that statement explaining why they were always present on the tables of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi and Antoninus is referring to small ones. So you want to eat small cucumbers. The Mishnah teaches that according to Rabbi Meir, the birthday of the king and the day of the death of the king are considered Gentile festivals, whereas the rabbis hold that only a death that includes public burning is considered a festival that includes idol worship. The Gemara comments, by inference, this means that Rabbi Meir holds that there's no difference whether it is a death that includes public burning, and there's no difference whether it is a death that does not include public burning. In either case, they engage in idol worship on that occasion. Evidently, Rabbi Meir holds that the burning performed at the death of the king is not an idolatrous custom, as it is not the cause of the prohibition. The Gemara continues, from here, one can conclude by inference that the rabbis hold that the burning upon the death of the king is an idolatrous custom. And we're talking about the death of kings. It is interesting today, so I'm recording this Sunday, June 29th, is the yard site of Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, the Gemara raises a difficulty, but isn't it taught in a Braita, we burn items upon the death of kings as an expression of grief, and this is not... So I want to say that the Hebrew date would be his yard site, not the secular date, so I want to clear that up. But it was this Sunday, right? So we burned items upon the death of kings as an expression of grief, and this is not the way of the Amorites, but rather a Jewish custom. That's a question. And if this is an idolatrous custom, how could we perform this public burning? But isn't it written, and you shall not walk in their statutes, Leviticus 18, verse 3? Everyone agrees that the public burning itself is not an idolatrous custom. Rather, it is performed due to the great importance of the king who passed away. And here in the Mishnah, they disagreed about this. Rabbi Meir holds that there is no difference whether it is a death that includes public burning, and there is no difference whether it is a death that doesn't include public burning. In either case, in practice, they engage in idol worship on that occasion. And the rabbis hold that a death that includes public burning is important to the Gentiles, and therefore they engage in idol worship on that occasion, but a death that does not include public burning is not important to them, and they do not engage in idol worship on that occasion. Having mentioned this Baraita, the Gemara returns to discuss the matter itself. And you know what? That actually reminds me of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Lag BaOmer. So obviously there was the spiritual things that happened with his house burning down and his body not being burned and things like that. But it is interesting that it has to do with the importance, right? They were talking about the importance with, the fire. Whereas, with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's connected with the importance of Torah or Torah learning, which, the Torah is associated with light, Doraita, and various things like that. So we have different perspectives on a similar custom, I guess you could say. Having mentioned this Baraita, the Gemara returns to discuss the matter itself. The Baraita teaches one burns items due to the death of kings as an expression of grief, and this is not subject to the prohibition of imitating the ways of the Amorites, since it is a Jewish custom. As it is stated that Jeremiah prophesied to Zedekiah, king of Judah, you shall die in peace, and with the burnings of your fathers, the former kings that were before you, so shall they make a burning for you. Jeremiah 34, verse 5. And just as one burns items upon the death of the king, so too one burns items upon the death of the heads of the Sanhedrin. So, obviously, a long time ago, fires were message-bearing beacons on the tops of hills and things like that. So, it's not far-fetched because, like, every Rosh Chodesh, there were, like, fires, signal fires and stuff like that, which is also interesting because whenever it was outlawed to announce Rosh Chodesh, they would go around and say, David, Yisrael, Melech Hai V'Kayam. So David, king of Israel. Did I say that right? David Melech Israel Chai V'Kayam. They would go around and say that. So David, king of Israel, is alive. So here we go. And what items do they burn upon the death of kings? They burn the king's beds and their utensils so that no one else can make use of them. And there was an incident in which Rabban Gamliel the elder died, and upon his death, Onkelos the convert burned 7,000 dinars in valuable Tyrian coinage. The Gemara asked, but didn't you state in response to the question, what do they burn upon the death of kings? That they burn their beds and their utensils? Why then did Onkelos burn money? The Gemara answers, say that Onkelos burned items that were valued at 7,000 dinars in Tyrian coinage. The Gemara asks, and are other items not destroyed in order to accord honor to the deceased king apart from the utensils? But isn't it taught in Braita that we detach the hooves of livestock upon the death of kings? And this is not subject to the prohibition of the ways of the Amorites. Rav Papa says that Braita is referring to the horse upon which the king rode, since that animal is designated as the king's personal item and is therefore rendered unusable for anyone else, like his personal utensils. The Gemara asks, and did they not detach the hooves of the king's kosher animals, which are not used by the king for riding? But isn't it taught in Braita, if removing the hooves of an animal would it entail that it becomes an animal with a wound that will cause it to die within 12 months, or a treifa, it is prohibited to do so? And when doing so, would not entail rendering it a treifa, it is permitted? And what is the way of removing hooves that does not entail rendering the animal a treifa? It says, one who cuts the hooves of the animal, severing the legs from the knee and below, does not render the animal a treifa. It is evident from the Braita, which discusses the cases in which an animal is rendered a treifa, and is therefore unfit to eat, that it is discussing kosher animals. The Gemara answers, Rav Papa interpreted the Braita referring to the calf that pulls the king's coach, a kosher animal of which the king made use. The Mishnah teaches the day of shaving his beard and his locks. A dilemma was raised before the sages. What is the Mishnah teaching here? Is it referring to the day of shaving his beard and head, when he cuts the hair of his head, and as a result his long locks at the back of his head are left as a form of idol worship? Or perhaps the Mishnah is speaking of the day of shaving his beard and removing his locks, which are removed sometime after they were left on the head. The Gemara responds, Tashema, come in here and answer, as both opinions are taught in Braitot. One Braita mentions the day of shaving his beard and head when his long locks at the back of his head are left, whereas a different Braita specifies the day of shaving his beard and removing his locks. The Gemara continues to discuss Roman festivals. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, they have another festival in Rome. Once every 70 years, they bring a man who is whole and free from any defect and have him ride on a lame man to symbolize the healthy Esau ruling over Jacob, who walked with a limp after his fight with the angel. And they dress him in the garments of Adam, the first man, and place on his head the scalp or kifelo of Rabbi Yishmael, which the Romans flayed when they executed him. Wow. And they hang gold on his neck weighing 2,000 dinars and cover the markets with onyx and announce before him the calculation of the master Jacob with regard to the time of the redemption is fraudulent. The brother of our master, Esau, a forger. They further announce, one who witnesses this festival witnesses it, and whoever does not witness it will not witness it ever, as it was celebrated only once every 70 years. What purpose does deceit serve for the deceiver, and forgery for the forger? And they conclude in this fashion, woe unto this one, Esau, when that one, Jacob, will arise, as this will cause Esau's downfall. I find it interesting because that is exactly, I keep saying this over and over again, that my opinion is that my perspective is that Christianity was created as Roman propaganda. And there's a million ways you can look at this. And this festival right here, I see it as exactly the same thing, because you're not just looking at these two people as patriarchs, but you're also looking at them in a spiritual sense. And without going into it too far, there's an enormous amount of symbolism that is here. But anyway, continuing. Now is not the time for that. Oh, did I? Yeah, okay. Rav Ashi says, the months of these wicked people have caused their downfall. Had they said a forger is the brother of our master, their claim would be interpreted as they say and wish to be understood. Now that they say the brother of our master, a forger, they can be understood as saying it is our master himself who is the forger. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason that the Tana of our Mishnah does not count this festival in his list of Gentile festivals? The Gemara answers, the Tana of the Mishnah counts those festivals that occur each and every year, and he does not count those festivals that do not occur each and every year. The Gemara comments, those festivals enumerated in the Mishnah are the festivals of the Romans. The Gemara asks, and what are the idolatrous festivals of the Persians? The Gemara answers, Mutredeh and Toriaske. Moharan, wow, this is a hard one to pronounce. Let's see. Moharanake and Moharin. The Gemara asks, those are the festivals of the Persians and the Romans, and what are the festivals of the Babylonians? The Gemara answers, Moharanake and Akenite. Wow. Aknite, let's see. Bechanune, in the 10th of Adar. Asar Ba'adar. Okay, Rav Hanan bar Rav Hista says that Rav says, and some say that it was Rav Hanan bar Rava, who says that Rav says, there are 5 established temples of idol worship, and they are the temple of Bel in Babylonia, the temple of Nebo in the city of Kursay, the temple of Tirata, which is located in the city of Mapag, Zerifa, which is located in Ashkelon, and Nashra, which is located in Arabia. So it says that it is associated, Nashra, which is in Arabia, is assumed to be a reference to the rites of the principal Nabatean deity Dushara, which was worshipped in Arabia, the Roman province that encompasses the Nabatean site. Okay. In Zarifa, which is in Ashkelon, this is understood as referring to a Serapeum, a site of the cult of the deity Serapis near Ashkelon. The temple of Tirata, which is in Mapag. So Tirata is referring to the deity originally worshipped by the Syrians. Atargatis, her principal temple, was located in the Syrian city, referred to in Latin sources as Mabag, or modern-day Manbij. Let's see, the temple Nebo, so Nebo or Nabu, was the name of the Babylonian deity who was believed to be the patron of prophecy and writing. The name Nebo is incorporated in the names of several Babylonian kings, such as Nebuchadnezzar. A large temple of his, a ziggurat, was located near Babylon. Temple Bel, the chief Babylonian deity was Bel. The Babylonians built a large temple in Esagila in his honor, descriptions of which figure in ancient Greek sources. This temple was destroyed by the Persians during the reign of Cyrus. It was later rebuilt and continued to stand for many generations. So, Moharanike and Moharin, it is difficult to ascertain the precise reference to these terms, as there are many variant texts with different versions of the names. Moharanike probably refers to the Persian festival Miragan, which was celebrated at the beginning of the rainy season. Okay. So that's the background of those. Let's see. Okay, Rav Hanan bar Rav Hista says that Rav says, and some say it was Rav Hanan bar Rava, says, okay, I'm sorry. So getting back to that, in Nashra, which is located in Arabia. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he said, the sages added to these places in the marketplace that is located in Ein Bechi and Nadbecha, which is located in Akko. There are those who say that Rav Dimi was referring to Natbera, which is located in Akko. Rav Dimi from Nahardea teaches the opposite, that it is the marketplace that is located in Akko, and Nadbecha, that is located in Ein Bechi. Rav Hanan bar Rav Hista said to Rav Hista, "What does it mean that these temples of idol worship are established?" Rav Hista said to him, This is what your mother's father, Rav Hanan bar Rava, said. In contrast to festivals, which last for 1 or several days, they are always fixed as the site of idol worship, as constantly all year round worship takes place there. Shmuel says, the halacha is that in the diaspora, engaging in business with Gentiles is prohibited only on the day of their festival itself, not during the days preceding and following the festival. Since Jews live among the Gentiles, they are unable to refrain from engaging in business with them for such an extended period. The Gemara asks, and is it prohibited even on their festival day itself? But didn't Rav Yehuda permit Rav Baruna to sell wine to Gentiles and permitted Rav Gidel to sell wheat on the festival of the Arab merchants? The Gemara answers, the festival of the Arab merchants is different as it does not have a fixed time, and therefore the sages did not include it in the prohibition. The Mishnah says, in the case of a city in which there is active idol worship, it is permitted to engage in business transactions with Gentiles who live outside of the city. If the idol worship is outside the city, it is permitted to engage in business within the city. What is the halacha with regard to traveling there? A place where a pagan festival is being celebrated, when the road is designated only for that place, it is prohibited to use the road, as onlookers will assume that the traveler intends to join the festival. But if one were able to travel on it to arrive at another place, it is permitted to use the road to reach the place that is observing the festival. I want to point out, it is interesting, they say that English and Hebrew have no relation, but it's funny because the word pagan, in Hebrew, pagan, is someone who comes to basically kill you, comes to hurt you. I don't mean that means that here, but that term, that's where that term comes from. Okay, the Gemara asks, what are the circumstances that determine whether a place is sufficient far from a city to be considered outside of it? Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says in the name of Rabbi Hanina, a place that is far enough away is, for example, the bazaar or Atluza of Gaza. The Bazaar of Gaza, which is located outside the city walls. And some say that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish asked Rabbi Hanina about this issue. What is the halakha with regard to the Bazaar of Gaza? May one conduct business there on the day of a festival celebrated in Gaza? And Rabbi Hanina said to him, did you never in your lifetime travel to Tyre and see a Jew and a Gentile place 2 pots on one stove? This is the end of the Daf 11. So we'll pick this up for Daf 12 and kind of backtrack a little bit. Thanks for watching.